On the Las Vegas Raiders Rundown, we are going to break down everything you need to know about the press conference today at OTAs. What did Hunter Renfrow, Nate Hobbs, Chandler Jones, defensive line coach Frank Okam, and coach Briscillo have to say? We also have updates on who's practicing, who's not practicing, who's getting snaps where. We're going to talk about all this and much more, so make sure you like this video if you haven't already, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. The humble Hunter Renfrow took this stage and had some words to say about Davante Adams.
I've really enjoyed getting to know him. He's been so good for so long. So just to see him every day, the way he works, whether he feels good or not, it's kind of uncommon from a superstar, to be honest with you. Someone that, you know, it doesn't matter how he feels or if he's having a good day or bad day, he goes out there and he puts the same work in, and he's just very, very consistent. And so that's, you know, that's really what I've taken him. His consistency, but also he's so explosive at the top of routes, the way he sees the game, the way he sees how the defense is trying to attack him. And so, you know, just trying to learn as much as I can from him.
But the weird thing that Hunter Renfrow said is that he did not know who he was in 2019.
Derek had played with him in college, and really for the last 3 or 4 years has been, you know, talking about him and talking, you know, it was funny. I didn't even know who he was. I remember throwing for the very first time in Oakland with Derek, and I'm like, I love college football, and so I watch college all the time. I didn't watch the NFL, and he was telling me a story about this guy named Davante, and I was like, who is that, you know? Because I didn't know, and it's just funny how that's kind of was my first memory of him. And
now, I don't know, this is kind of ridiculous to me. How do you not know who Davante Adams is? I don't care if you don't watch NFL football. If you're watching college, at least, you should know who the guy is. And remember, Hunter Renfrow once said that he did not know where Oakland was before he was drafted. I don't know, you let me know in the comments. Is Hunter Renfrow capping? Or is this really who this guy is? If so, I gotta say I love it. Hunter Renfrow also talked about sharing the receptions between Davante Adams and Darren Waller, and he also talked about making it to the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, I've certainly know Darren really well, and I'm starting to, you know Davante pretty well, and so two very, very unselfish guys that I think would say they put the team before themselves, and so, you know, that's got to be a focus for all of us, that, you know, team success is far superior than individual success, and, you know, it doesn't matter if we have 50 catches this season apiece. As long as we're winning, that's the ultimate goal. That's all that matters, and it's a huge honor, right, to be voted on for something like that. So I don't know. I'm not a very big individual guy. I think it was cool and it was a huge honor, but that's not my goal for this year. You know, my goal is to have the best season we can.
So his goal is on the Super Bowl. He's not thinking about anything else. He's going team first, and he's also having to learn a new offense, and that's taken up a lion's share of the time of Hunter Renfrow. And he talked about slot receivers with Josh McDaniels, how they've performed, and what's it been like working with Josh McDaniels and this new offense.
Fun, they're really good players. You know, I think, you know, with Wes and Julian Jacoby, it's been really a lot of fun to watch Jacoby the last 2 years for them. He's been explosive. He's been really good. You know, I think Coach McDaniels is just very good at teaching the details of it, and those guys did a good job. I mean, it's a lot of work, and he puts a lot on them, but I think it can be rewarding if you buy into what he has to say. And, you know, they've had some good receivers in the past, and so, you know, some of it is just being where you need to be and being consistent.
Nate Hobbs also took the stage and talked about being a versatile DB.
Right now, I play DB. I play whatever the coaches want me to play, honestly. I just feel like I got to be that flex guy. I could do whatever they ask me to. That's where my mind is.
I mean, do you see yourself playing outside more this year then?
I see myself playing wherever the coaches want me to play. That's right.
So Nate Hobbs is not giving anything away, but he's also making it known that he is a flexible player. He can play that outside cornerback role and that slot cornerback role, but don't just rule him immediately as a slot cornerback because he played that last year. Clearly, according to him, he's going to bounce around wherever he can and wherever the coaches need him. One interesting thing is that Nate Hobbs talked about the value of practicing against Davante Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow. When you're going up against these guys and you can make plays against them, it gets you to think that maybe you can make plays against anybody.
I think that gives us, as a defense, like one of the best looks, like prepare us for almost anybody, if not, you know, anybody. I really appreciate the guys on the other side. They get me better every day. Davante, Hunter, Darren, Derek. Yeah, it really don't get much better than Hunter Renfrow on the inside, Davante Adams on the outside, and Darren Waller at the flex wise. So when you do, you know, when we do fit the routes up, you know, correctly, or you do get that work every day, that competition every day, it just makes it that much easier and gives you confidence when you can do it against those guys.
So just having Davante Davante Adams on our team is making our defense better every single day while they're competing. Great to see for the young cornerback room. But we know we have Anthony Aver, Rock Ya-Sin, Trayvon Mullen, Nate Hobbs. All of these guys are good, and Nate Hobbs talked about this, and he talked about how the competition is definitely heating up.
Same dynamic. We just brought in a lot of guys who could play. Like, we don't got a true star in the DB room, but everybody, to me, everybody can play. Like, it's going to be a battle at every position.
So it's going to be a battle, and there's no clear indicator on who the starting 3 cornerbacks will be. Nate Hobbs definitely will compete. I'm interested to see who's starting week 1. Defensive line coach Frank Okam hyped up Chandler Jones talking about his experience, and then Chandler Jones hyped up Frank Okam.
You know, as a former player, you have to remember in the NFL that we're co-workers. And so for me, I always like to pick the brain of someone who has 100+ sacks, because that's something I never did in my own career. So anytime you can get some lessons from the way they see the game, coaching points, film study points, anything to help those guys, young guys, acclimate to the game faster, I'm all ears. I have no ego in this game. I'm just trying to help the Raiders win football games.
Coach Frank is very football smart, and that's a very cliche thing to say, but the terminology that he uses, you know, I feel like you get a lot of guys that they coach and don't play that position, and it's very normal in this league. But Frank, obviously, he had some success, and he played defensive line. So the way that he coaches, I love, because he knows how to say the right things to certain players because he's been in these situations before.
And that's what's great to see. A former player's a defensive line coach. I know we had Rod Marinelli last year, and yeah, he is a legend. And that's what's great, having a former player be your defensive line coach. I know we had Rod Marinelli last year, but he's an older guy, you know, has been out of it for some time. Having a player, somebody you could really relate to who's been on the field, is really invaluable, and Chandler Jones clearly appreciates that. And Chandler Jones cannot leave the podium without hyping up Max Crosby. He talked about how he is one of the main reasons why he is a Raider.
He's already been pushing me, and it's insane almost to this point where I am in my career, you know, being 11 years in, going into my 11th season. There's been a few times in this camp now where I see Max, you know, running to the next drill, and I'm kind of like, I gotta go faster. Look at Max, he's already over there, you know. He's younger than me, but like I said, he's pushed me in that sense already. So I'm excited to rush him. Like, he was a huge reason why I came to Las Vegas too. It's one of the main reasons why I came to play with him. So I get giddy even talking about him. So, well, he's probably out there waiting for me now. That's my boy. I thought he would be someone, because I knew Max prior to coming to the team. We used to speak. I would text him and talk about pass rush for years before coming here. So the opportunity for us to be on the same team is just surreal.
And people criticize the Raiders for signing Chandler Jones. Why would the Raiders give over $50 million for an outside linebacker who's over 30?
I don't want to go in front of these guys and say, hey, you know what I can do. You saw me a few years ago, or you saw me in ESPN. You saw me 2019, I had 19 sacks. I mean, what have you done for me lately? And what can you do for me now? And I know that, I understand that. So I take pride in my work, and I come to work every day with a smile on my face, but also to perfect my craft. I don't have a magic ball to sit here and tell you Chandler's going to play this many, X many more years, or this many, you know, how much is in the tank. It would be unfair for me to sit here and tell you, oh, I could do this and can't do that. I feel great, and I'm excited to play this season, and we'll move forward from there.
So Chandler Jones knows that you're only as good as your last season, so expect him to keep fighting to prove all the haters wrong, that he can still be productive at this age. Frank Okam also had some comments to say about Clelin Ferrell.
You know, when you have somebody as big and athletic as him, all you're really trying to do is get him confident as possible so he can play as many positions as possible. And what I've seen so far from the spring is that he's been receptive, he's been all ears, and he's been eager, and he's been playing with really great effort. And that's really where we're just trying to establish the foundation.
We know we've heard about Clelin Ferrell moving to outside linebacker in that interview with Pop Culture. It's interesting to see, where will Ferrell go? Frank Okam clearly wants him to learn as many positions as possible. It seems like he's very open to the fact that Ferrell could be that interior sub defensive lineman or be on the outside. Either way, this defensive line coach doesn't want to give away anything about the scheme. He's being very vague and secretive because he's a smart individual. We'll see where Clelin Ferrell ends up this year. Offensive line coach Briscillo had some words to say about Alex Leatherwood.
I think to that same regard, Vinny, following up to the first question, I mean, Alex, like all the guys, have been playing a bunch of positions. So it's a matter right now, truly, of as a group, us building some cohesion, understanding the system. We're not there yet. And just working to develop some core fundamentals that might be a little different, some different teaches that we're asking them to do. So, but I know, like the rest of the guys, he's a worker. He cares. He's got a high standard for himself, just like the other guys, and that's a good thing.
He also made some comments about Dylan Parham. Will he sink or swim?
It's kind of like, we're just going to throw you in the deep end a little bit, and we're going to make you swim. And I think that's a part of it, and it's a shock system to it. And I think the challenge of it, the system that, you know, coach is never going to be satisfied, and that transcends all the way down to. If you're just going to teach them and just go slowly, then they're just going to plateau. Like, go with the shock system and let's get after it. See what they can assimilate now.
And really what Coach Briscillo did was emphasize versatility and offensive linemen playing multiple positions. He talked about how injuries happen every single year with the offensive line. You have to anticipate it, which is why you see people like Dylan Parham cross-training between center and guard.
Your injuries are going to occur, and now, depending upon how they'll continue on with the rules, are you going to be able to dress 7 or is it 8 as a COVID? I don't even know how those rules have impacted us, but if you're going to go to a game typically with 7 offensive linemen dressed, you're going to have to be able to play multiple positions. If you're only going to play one position, you better be one of the best at it.
So outside of Colton Miller, since he clearly is the best tackle on our team, all these other guys are going to have to learn multiple positions unless they are the best at their position. So maybe we won't choose necessarily the best offensive lineman for a particular position for the starting lineup, but we will choose the most versatile offensive lineman for the starting lineup. Either way, hopefully Coach Briscillo can get it done in year 2 of his offensive lineman coach career. Jonathan Abram was scheduled to talk to the media, but he did not. However, we did have some news about him in practice. Sean Reed of The Athletic saying that Abram is getting a lot of snaps at 2 deep safety, which is very interesting because he's played in the box throughout his career, especially last year. Oftentimes people say that he struggles in coverage and where he excels is in the box. You even had people float rumors saying that he'd make a great linebacker. I don't know about that. I think he'd have to gain about 20 pounds, but this is pretty interesting. The new coaching staff is trying to test his coverage skills and see exactly where Jonathan Abram is at. I personally like Jonathan Abram. I think he's a fiery guy, has a great attitude. I want to see him excel in coverage so he can be the starting safety for the Raiders for years to come. I think there's certain things that you cannot teach, and the way that he hits and the way that he pursues the football is something that is just invaluable. So hopefully he impresses Patrick Graham and could be our starting strong safety this year. Diablo is showing up to OTAs. He did not show up the year prior, but he's hanging out and he's in a non-contact red jersey. I don't know if he's hurt, what this means. At least he is there, and we haven't heard really any Diablo news so far throughout OTAs, but we finally have it. We know he is at least in attendance and he's hanging out, but just doing no contact. Interesting to see. That shows that there's other people doing contact. He opted out. We just don't know exactly what the reasons are, and perhaps it was the coach's decision, not even Diablo's decision at all. So the offensive line is a huge question mark. Tons of competition happening everywhere along the offensive line besides left tackle. You had Grassu taking snaps at center. Andre James was not participating. I don't think he was even there. At first I knew he was not participating, but from the looks of it, it seems like he might not have even been there. Alex Leatherwood, however, taking the majority of snaps at right tackle, looking more and more likely he will be the starting right tackle. It's probably his job to lose because you want your first round pick, who you drafted to be a tackle, to be the freaking tackle. I mean, that's what you would ideally want. So that's what the coaching staff is going with. Lester Cotton getting some snaps at right guard as well. Interesting to see. Always been kind of a bubble guy, floating between practice squad and the roster for the past few years. Interesting to see him get in there along with John Simpson and obviously Colton Miller. So from the looks of it, I mean, I don't know if this is our starting O-line, but based on who is practicing today, you would have, Colton Miller at left tackle along with Lester Cotton at right guard, John Simpson at left guard. You got Grassu as your center and Leatherwood as your right tackle. So Raider Nation, are you happy with that offensive line? Is that the offensive line you want to see there week 1? Lester Cotton and along with freaking Grassu. There's a myriad of reasons why certain people aren't practicing and participating, and we won't really find out what's going on for sure until the mandatory minicamp. And this is going to be going on June 7th to June 9th. So we'll know a little bit more about what this offensive line could look like week 1. And now we're going to get into our member questions. If you want me to address your questions in videos like this, become a member. The link is in the description below. Besides our division, what team scares you the most? And you can't say the Bills because the Bills would be an easy answer. So I'm going to give you one team, and this might also be an easy answer since we can't do the division. We can't do Bills. I'm going to go ahead and say the Bengals. The Bengals, because they're on the up and up. They were just in the Super Bowl last year. They still have all their weapons. They still have Joe Burrow on that cheap rookie contract. That's really tough to compete with, man. And we lost to them twice last year. There's a reason we lost to them twice last year. However, I think we are a much improved team. And really, when you look at the playoff game, there was a lot of sketchy calls there. There's the Renfrow incomplete pass. There's Whistlegate. You don't even want to get me started on that. So whether I like it or not, we got to be afraid of Joe Burrow and the Bengals. What is the probability of trading one of the non-extended fifth-year guys, Abram, Jacobs, Ferrell, before the season starts? What what would your ideal trade look like? Now, I personally do not think, because we have a new coaching staff, we are going to trade any of these guys. Now, here's my reasoning behind this, and I don't think it's honestly worth it, because yes, at the most, you could probably get some draft capital from some of these guys, but they're all first round picks. So even if you get a third round, luckily, that still to me isn't worth the first round pick that your franchise invested in to get these people on your team. Now, with all these guys, I mean, I think Jacobs is still top 10, maybe top 12 at his position, and he has some of the most missed tackles in the NFL year after year. He's a really talented running back. The only thing going against Josh Jacobs is the fact that the Patriots and Josh McDaniels don't value running backs that much and don't traditionally pay running backs that much money. That's the only thing going against Jacobs right now. He's still a very talented running back, and I don't want to hear this crap about how he fumbles all the time. He only fumbled twice last year. Never forget that. He only fumbled twice last year. So what I think will happen is they're going to let these guys play out their year and see who impresses, and maybe even try to re-sign some of these guys, because even if they don't ball out, like say Abram or Ferrell goes out there and has a year like they did previously, where it's an average year, you don't really see that much upside, it's still worth keeping them on the team and then negotiating a contract with them, because then their value won't be insanely high, especially if you don't see huge improvement. They're still good players. Why not try to work with them and see if you can keep them here a little longer? Maybe not for as much money as they received as a first round draft pick, but if they ball out and they are worth that amount of money, then it's a win-win situation for both the coaching staff and the players. So I say get some production out of these guys, try to make a Super Bowl run with these guys, and just make the decision in the offseason. Why waste trading them just to get a third or a fourth round pick? Who cares? Do you think Zamir White will see the field during the regular season, or is Kenyon Drake penciled in as the number 2 running back? Now, I think you will see Zamir White during the season, because the running back position is kind of like the offensive line position. You're going to want some guys in there to rotate. People are going to get banged up. People aren't going to be able to play maybe just a quarter, maybe a half, maybe a game. That's just the nature of how things go, and you really want to keep these guys fresh. My criticism against John Gruden, even though I like John Gruden, is I felt like he ran Josh Jacobs into the ground, especially in year 2020 week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. Josh Jacobs should not have had over 30 carries in week 1 of the season. I don't think that was a good call. And so I do think Kenyon Drake is still going to be the number 2 back. He's a talented receiver. We know Josh McDaniels likes to utilize his backs in the receiving game. Brandon Bolden, though, seems like he's, in line to be the third down back just because of his experience with Josh McDaniels. However, Drake had his contract restructured, which means he's fully guaranteed this year, and you do that for a reason, because you want to get this guy the football. I think Zamir White, maybe you'll see him in the back half of the season after he's gained some experience. And also, we want to take a look and see, how is this guy in preseason? Do you think we signed Colin Kaepernick? And what are your thoughts about our secondary? So we touched on secondary a little earlier in this video. I just think it's going to be a tough competition, and I think we're fortunate enough to have 4 starters. My main concern is Trayvon Mullen healthy? If he's not healthy, then I think it makes our cornerback room kind of weak, where you don't really have that many options if somebody goes down. Now, if Trayvon Mullen is healthy, then you got a lot of options. You got 4 starters, in my opinion, between Rocky Sin, Mullen, and Averett and Nate Hobbs. Now, with Colin Kaepernick, I don't think it's going to happen. I have a video about that, about how, I do think it was kind of a PR move and about media hype. I don't think it was a workout in jest. And if it was in jest, Colin Kaepernick must have stunk it up, or else we would have signed him. So he must have stunk it up so bad where Jarrett Stidham, Nick Mullins, light years above cap. But who knows? We'll see what the future holds. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe for more Raiders content. This has been WiFiWillie of the Raiders Rundown. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.